Your business, your rules. I keep telling you this, and you keep allowing people who are not your target market to upset you. Not every cake business is the same. We all either thrive or suffer in different circumstances, whether that be financially or emotionally. Do remember, not every customer knows this. So stop taking it personally. You know, if you get into a bit of a ding dong because you're actually telling someone, no, I don't want to make that cake, or you're getting told that you're too expensive, things like that. Stop feeling bad. Just say no graciously. Thank you and goodbye, right? There's plenty of other places that they can go for whatever it is they're asking for. They're not going to give you another thought. They're just going to move on. So don't take it personally yourself. I've talked about this before, but quite a while ago I made the decision to not make any more fondant celebration cakes, unless for a wedding. The wedding industry, it gives me a buzz. It just makes me happy. I'm confident with my skills with the sugar florals. I love the praise. I love the praise. I'll admit that. Don't we all? I love designing something like bespoke, based on a mood board or a dress detail or some sort of theme. That's where I get my creative thrill. Plus, there's a decent hourly rate to be made. I was getting so angry at myself for doing these really highly detailed kids' birthday cakes and not making what I needed to make from it. It also means that I'll be appealing to more of those clients. So I'll get that thrill, that fun over and over again. So fondant celebration cakes, the really ridiculously detailed kids ones with the figures on and things like that, they were always a source of massive stress, especially when people just wanted me to copy another cake maker's cake, because I'd worry about getting it, we'd all make that same cake in a different way, won't we? So I'd get given 3 or 4 different themes and they would somehow magically want me to incorporate them all together. Like, there were one time I got asked to do, it was the X Factor, rock climbing, the lottery and Tenerife all on one cake. Why? My brain doesn't go there. It's like, it's a cake. Do they like Maltesers? And that's literally used to be my thing. Why do they want all this fondant stuff that no one eats anyway, when they could just have something nice and chocolatey on top? But that's my brand. So in my old house, I had a tiny little kitchen. That's where I made this decision. I could make my little rustic bakes just in there. If I were going to do fondant, it took up the whole dining room as well. Because I've lost my place. Like now, that wedding cake I've just done, I actually did all my ruffles and I stacked the cake and did all the detailing in the corner of my living room. Luckily, I've got all hard surfaces, but it did expand into my house. But I didn't mind because it was for a wedding and I was being paid decently for it. So, we need separate worktops, we need space for the airbrush extractor, more storage for more tools, more stock on the shelf, so that's more money sat on your shelf, more cleaning, that layer of icing sugar and airbrush spray that just coats everything. So when I do a lot of fondant, my back hurts, my wrist hurts, my sciatica kicks in, I get stressed, I get anxious. So every high detail fondant birthday cake, especially if it was a copy cake, for me was a sleepless night. I'd lay awake wondering how we were going to do it. Then I'd fall asleep and I'd dream that I was doing it. And then I'd wake up feeling like I'd just done all that work during the night and I were having to start it all over again. And then I'd be up late, just titivating and doing a bit more. It was so stressful. Probably a third of those cakes I was doing involved a panic attack. Now that's quite serious. If you were working for an employer and a third of the time you were working for him, you were getting a panic attack, that's not good. You wouldn't put up with that, would you? You'd be quitting that job. The clients love that I'm a perfectionist, but they didn't realise, because obviously I weren't going to tell them, that came from chronic anxiety about getting the cake right. So when I was smiling and handing it over, they think I love the process, oh, you're such a natural. I weren't going to tell them otherwise. I weren't going to spoil that experience. And quite often I'd close the door, they'd drive away and I'd be crying just with the relief that they actually liked it. Yeah, that's not healthy, is it? I knew that it weren't right for me. It was also taking hours away from my son, and he's out permanently homeschooled. Like, nothing, it's not worth that for a really low hourly rate. So when I reviewed my pricing at the start of lockdown, I realised that my fondant cakes needed to go up by 50%. And my prices were already probably 30% higher than the average in this area. So I had a few clients I knew wouldn't mind paying it, but I felt bad because their £60 cakes were now going to be 90. Their £80 cakes were now going to be 120. And as well, for the sake of just keeping those few clients on, it meant that every now and again I'd have to dig out all my fondant tools again, turn my dining room into chaos, just for the sake of one cake. Because it's all right cleaning up at the end of the day when you've been working on 3 or 4 cakes, but that half an hour washing every surface down and mopping your floor is like, that's now just for one cake instead of being split between 4. So that meant really that customer needed to be paying that full half an hour's cleaning, plus the overheads for that, the cleaning products all in their cake price. So, instead of it being split between a few orders. So I made a very difficult choice, and I made the announcement, and I did let some people down. I still feel guilty. It does come up regularly. The guilt from one lady in particular made me actually cry because I felt as though I'd let her and the kids down. I could see it from her point of view, right? She'd put a lot of work my way, a lot of money my way over a few years, and she'd recommended me to loads of people, and she felt as though it meant nothing to me. Obviously, it meant a hell of a lot to me, but I had to make a professional business decision, right? And you know what? I was entitled to make that decision for myself, for my family. If I had, if you're working a skilled job for an employer, but they're only paying less than minimum wage and the conditions are terrible, you won't put up with that. So why would I do that to myself? You know what? If that employer rang me up casual, every few months they had a bit more work for me, I would say, oh yeah, I'll go and do that for you. You wouldn't do it. I'm not saying the customer is the employer. I'm talking about myself as that employee. No, she was a dream. I loved it. Right? Oh God, the cake. She used to have some amazing cake. But yeah, the relief that I felt, the time I saved, the better hourly rate that I make now. I'm misbehaving yet again. I don't get the back pain from doing the fondant all the time. The zero cake related panic attacks that I've now had. I haven't had them in a couple of years now, cake related. My dining room staying clean instead of being in that constant state of sweet, dusty icing sugar and that film of blue that coats everything when you've had airbrush out. It's got to be worth it, hasn't it? It's got to be worth it. So the moral of the story, whatever your situation is, whichever product it is that is stressing you, that is not making you enough money, make the decision that is best for you. It's nothing to do with anybody else. Prepare yourself for a bit of guilt, then prepare to get angry at yourself for feeling guilty because you shouldn't feel guilty. But those feelings will pass because you know it's for the best, right? It's your life. If you're feeling guilty for dropping a product, just remember, even the big supermarkets, big department stores, they will drop a product if it is no longer financially viable for them to sell it. And they're all loaded. They can take a hit now and again because they're selling loads of other stuff at massive profit. So don't jump through like flaming hoops if you're not in the circus, because you're just going to get burnt. I don't know where my analogy is going, but you get what I'm saying. Your business, your rules, full stop.